But let's get to the big story, which is the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, or NUPRC, announcing a new initiative aimed at helping new marginal oil field licensees to source investments for their operations. In a statement released on Tuesday, the regulator plans to organize a roadshow that will bring together all parties in the sector, including investment bankers, multilateral agencies, and others, for a unique production lending engagement. And there is more that the NUPRC is placing on the table in support of the marginal oil awardees. Drilling into this latest development is an industry professional. Kola Karim is the group CEO at Shoreline Energy International. Thank you so much tonight for coming through on the show.
Thank you for having me, Boston.
We appreciate it. Tell me more about this NUPRC's initiative, what it calls a production-based lending engagement for marginal field operators. What do you understand by that?
Look, I think what they've come up with is actually a very, very interesting standpoint as a regulator trying to energize the sector in making it more productive. And by so doing, 57 licenses were issued. And the problem most of these license awardees are facing is ability to raise in capital and get into that first oil. By virtue of the license, it's a marginal license. That means these licenses already have oil finds on them. And the only way to position this is get quick wins by deploying quick and effective technical capacity, available capital to invest in this and keep these assets producing.
But funding is one of the greatest issues, I'm sure you'll agree.
But funding is a major problem, especially in the decarbonization era, Boston. And if you think about what is happening to even the major producers, decarbonization is a big issue. That's the elephant in the room. So now looking at the small marginal operators, for them to raise adequate capital that's needed to put these fields into production is even more difficult. So what NUPRC, our regulators, doing is being able to put together investment banks, private equity investors, also technical service providers that could come together, look at some of these assets, see the ones that's a quick win for them, that you could deploy either finance, technical ability in putting them into production and making sure everyone sees value.
Why is the NUPRC doing this on behalf of these awardees?
Look, they have no choice. The problem Nigeria has faced, as you've seen, you saw the record profits Saudi Aramco put out there. You saw the record profits from Shell, from Chevron, all the global producers. But Nigeria, where's the record profit? It's not there. And we all know what the problem is. The problem is the security, the thefts, the tampering, and the aging facilities. So if you look at 57 marginal fields, if 50 of them alone could go into production in the next 365 days by using this NUPRC support mechanism, and each of them can produce on average 5,000 barrels, that's additional 250,000 barrels a day, Bolson, coming in as royalties into the national coffers. So it's a fantastic idea. I hope it can work with all hands on deck and commitment. Government is now making the right moves in trying to support the small players in the industry reaching capital that could put production at play.
Yeah, these marginal licensees are basically indigenous oil firms in a manner of speaking. So, in terms of those awards, but again, what will make it worth the while? What will make the investors, the private equity folks, the multilateral institutions open up their purse and say, look, take the money, let's do the business? Is it going to worth their while?
Look, the true fact of it is the marginal field round is an indigenous setup that is helping to encourage indigenous participation in the oil and gas sector. So the tax regulations or the tax and the royalties around this framework is actually a lot more profitable compared to the bigger assets, the joint venture assets. So this would be an interesting factor to hopefully draw in the private equity investors and investors who are looking for good returns on their investment, but hopefully able to deploy the right technical skills and capacity in putting the assets to quick production.
So the NUPRC, the regulator, is also talking about a new corporate governance framework for upstream operators. How much of this do we know, and what does it intend to achieve?
Person, it is necessary because as for the government to achieve the marginal field round, the last one, and the 57 licenses we're talking about, a lot of strange bedfellows were merged and put together. A lot of different people with different skill set, different capacity, and different financial know-how were put together. Some 5, some 2, some 3, 4 on the same license. Now, you can imagine it's like herding a cow, trying to make sure these different parties sit around the same type of international guarded governance to work together and with hope of achieving a very successful business together. So NUPRC is trying to put a template in play that will be the guiding principles in making sure every partner in the venture know where they stand.
So what's your outlook on Nigeria's oil production for the current year, considering the current market realities? And do you have any target price for oil for the remainder part of 2023? We're just getting started. We're just about to knock off the first quarter of the year.
I think both before last weekend, when this SVB bank collapsed in the United States, which is sending jitters to global financiers and is now creeping into the energy sector, but hopefully Africa is not going to see that yet because African lenders are standing up to be counted. What I see is we're still looking at about $100 oil because of the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And secondly, because of the shorts in the market, OPEC is holding its ground, keeping 2 million barrels off the market. And the last but not the least is looking at Nigeria. I think with a new government coming in, the commitment of this government and in transition to the next government is one key thing. Keep the oil flowing, and to make that happen, we have to ensure security in the Niger Delta. We have to ensure the pipelines are not tampered with, and more importantly, we have to make sure that production is going, there's available capital, and capacity is being built in Nigeria.
Do you think the continuity of the Petroleum Industry Act will be very key moving forward from a new administration in June? How critical would this be for those who want to invest in these marginal oil fields and even beyond?
One thing for any government, and the incoming government, is they have to hold this sacrosanct. Oil is no longer the preserve of countries like Nigeria. Oil and gas is being found in other parts of Africa. So you need to market what we have in Nigeria as the right destination. And the PIB, as it is an important framework to market out there how interesting the Nigerian opportunities are. And what is also very important is, in as much as oil and gas is still over 90% of the foreign exchange earner of Nigerian coffers, for any government, it is a very, very important sector of the economy that's got to be looked on, touched on, focused on, and made a very key deciding point of any government.
So I'll go back to that. Do you have any target for oil price in the year?
Sorry, repeat that question, please.
Yeah, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is entering its second year as we speak. So some folks think that oil prices could still as well touch 100 this year. Is that likely to happen, or you're holding it around 80? What's your level? What's your target?
No. I think OPEC is playing a very, very good game in trying to keep the balance in and keep the prices up. And $100 oil is still not far away. We're not seeing end in sight with the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Energy requirement in Europe. And remember, we're in March. We're going to start going into the driving season in the United States with the spring and summer coming up. The future I see is about $100 oil.
So what's your target for Nigeria this year as far as oil production is concerned? What figure do you think we'll be able to achieve at the end of the year, barring any unforeseen occurrences out there?
Well, without any unforeseen problems, with the right focus and dedication that we're seeing from all the security apparatus that's been put in place, 2 million barrels in the near term is not far-fetched. 2.5 in the next 365 days, and a concerted effort by the incoming administration, 3 million barrels should be the target in the next 24 months. With the combination of the marginal fields, combining that with the offshore assets, and a lot of the onshore assets have been shut down, that needs to be production needs to restart, security needs to be put in place, community engagements needs to go on. That's a targeted position that will produce and take Nigeria to that 2.5 to 3 million barrels a day production.
Quite ambitious. Interesting. Kola Karim, the group CEO at Shoreline Energy International. Those industry insights are well appreciated. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.